why are we experiencing this brain fog? What is really happening here? Well, as I mentioned, it's a chemical cocktail, but your body is producing it to protect you. So I'm talking about your body as a part of your brain, synonymous with the subconscious mind, the body, the brain, the subconscious mind. You could also say the animal brain, the reptilian brain. It has four default responses for trauma: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. This is freeze response. That's what this is. It's freeze response. Our neural pathways in our brain became programmed to default to freeze response because of childhood trauma. So that was just a fancy way of saying um, your brain's messed up because you went through some stuff as a kid. And that's why your brain's messed up. You went through some really tough stuff as a kid, and you had to figure out a way to cope. And when you're a child, you can't just get up and be like, I'm moving out of this house. You parents need to get this together. You're a little unstable. That's not an option. You can't fight back at your caregivers, or sometimes it's bullies in school. So as a child, you just might be in a position where you don't feel like you have any choice, any options. When the fawn response stops working or doesn't apply to the situation, then the only other response is the freeze response. So you've seen animals do the freeze response, right? I saw a video on TikTok that was kind of interesting, but it was like a bunch of chickens, and I mean a bunch, like 20 plus chickens. It had to be like 30 chickens. They were like young or something like that, or maybe small chickens of some type. But anyway, what was cool about it is they're all walking, and then all of a sudden they just like that. They just and they stood there. It doesn't matter if they were on one leg, whatever. Everyone just stood still. It was all of them basically at once, just like this. Boop. So what's going on there? Well, animals have a way when they work in flocks and groups and packs like that. They have a way of detecting danger based on what everyone else is doing. We kind of do that as humans too. Have you ever wanted to run because you saw other people running, walking down the street, and then a bunch of people running this direction? You're unlikely to just be like, "Oh, I wonder what they're running from." No, you're just going to kind of turn around and start running with them, right? Because you assume that if other people are responding, then there must be something to be afraid of. And so if other people jump in the room like this, you're going to jump. Oh my God, you'll be screaming. You don't know what even you're screaming about, right? Because even we have that pack animal mentality. If you're screaming, there's probably a cockroach, a mouse, something disgusting. Like, what happened? And so someone else getting scared makes you scared. So likewise, animals have that response, like deer who see the white of other deer tails, they know just to freeze. And the freeze response allows them to blend in with the environment. So now they just look like dirt, grass, trees. You can't really notice them. They camouflage, they disappear, or at least they hope so. And that will allow them to survive because they know that their natural predators have trouble spotting them when they're not actually moving. And so in the freeze response, it is a survival technique. As humans, we also have freeze response. And one of the ways that freeze response manifests itself, a little bit more complicated than just chickens standing still, is us going into dissociation. And that's going to include our ADHD symptoms, our dissociative symptoms, right? And then the loss of the memory and the brain fog. This is a part of dissociation, derealization, right? This is a part of dissociation. So what we're doing is we're still here physically, but our brain says, okay, we're going to check out. We're going to take you to a better place, a place where there's castles and fairies and things are nice and there's rainbows and hearts. And so you can learn as a kid to go to a different place, disinhabit your body, right? So you go outside of yourself. As that neural pathway gets created in your childhood, you grow up as an adult and you wonder why you have these issues, particularly when there's something stressful going on. So normally you could be a sharp person, pretty smart, but then when you're under stress, you suddenly can't think and you freeze up. Like one guy, he was pretty brilliant. I mean, he was getting a promotion at work after all. But in his last job, even though he excelled once he had to manage other people and he didn't have someone that in and he wasn't able to perform his duties at work. But for him, it was because of the stress of having that promotion. For another young man, as a student, he has these time constraints, and the time constraints are very stressful. When he has time constraints, he notices suddenly he can't think, and that's when the brain fog really sets in for him. So for him, his trigger is the time constraints. For others, it will be stress or pressure of another type. For one couple, they lost all of their belongings. They lost their house, their business in a natural disaster. Coping with sudden poverty after that, the wife in the couple started to develop this brain fog. It was like she couldn't think, she couldn't rebuild for herself because she was so shocked. She was just in shock over the loss. And so now it was like her brain was working slowly. So it's important to understand that whatever you've been through that's caused you to lose that feeling of sharpness and momentum and movement in your brain, it's not permanent. This isn't a life sentence. Sometimes we can say, oh man, it's cognitive decline, I'm old, I'm doomed. This can happen at any age. This can happen at any age. The whole thing. You can be 20 years old and go into the living room and lose the remote control and forget what you were even there to get, go to the next room. And this can happen to anyone at any age because it's a stress response, right? So we have to learn what we can do to get ourselves out of this freeze response, out of the derealization, the fog, the floating, the overwhelm, the chatter. How do we manage this so that we're not dominated by it and actually ruled by this trauma response? Because it can feel like it's ruining our lives. It can feel like we're failing as students, as parents, as bosses at work, as workers. It can feel like we're just working under our potential. So what should we do? Well, the first thing we want to remember is not to beat ourselves up when it happens. Don't beat yourself up when it happens. I remember hearing about some moms that were so mean when their kids were like doing homework. If the kids, when they're trying to teach the children, if the children messed up like on their writing or something like that, the parents would like hit the children. The mom would just hit them for making a mistake. And ironically, that doesn't really cause you to be smarter, does it? Did you ever have a parent that yelled at you when you were trying to get their help with homework? They get frustrated with you. And did that help when they yelled at you and put pressure on you? Like, I just told you, come on. They're doing all that, getting all excited. Did that help to help you to learn? Of course not. It doesn't make you smarter for someone to yell at you. It makes you dumber. For any of us, you can be a genius, but when you're under that type of pressure, uh, the cortisol comes in and your brain shuts down. The cortisol shuts off your access to your cerebral cortex, which is the slower part of the brain, but it's the wiser part because it has the ability to bring in all the options and weigh things out from an objective perspective. That's you don't have access to that when you're all stressed out. So please understand that when you get mad at yourself for being foggy, for forgetting, for having an imperfect brain, you're being that abusive parent to the self. So step number one, this is don't use this as an opportunity to beat yourself down. Don't say, what's wrong with me? In the sense of there's something wrong with me. Don't say there's something wrong with me. Don't say to yourself, oh, clearly my brain doesn't work. Clearly I'm getting too old. Clearly I have Alzheimer's. Oh, this is my ADHD. This is why I need medication. Don't say those things to yourself. Why? because they're not helpful in that moment. You're already going through a stress. You're already stressed out. That's why your brain is fogging up. So don't say something more stressful, like I'm losing my mind. Don't say that, because you have a subconscious computer system that's running as an AI. Your AI subconscious computer system is listening to what you say. If you say I'm losing my mind, AI goes, oh, that's very stressful. That's violation of a value. So dump more cortisol, fog up the brain more. It's trying to help you. Do you understand how it works? If you say something stressful, I'm losing my mind, I'm losing my health, I'm losing everything that's important to me, your brain says, we got to step in. This is very serious. We got to help you out. And then it'll pour more cortisol in, which is terrible for your health overall. And then you're in more of a fog and a dissociation, and I can't even function. I'm catatonic now. And why did that happen? Because you made the situation worse by getting angry or getting impatient or being critical of the self. Don't do that. So how should we respond when we notice our brain is being a little slow? How should we respond? Well, how should you respond when you notice a child is being a little bit slow? Do you yell at the child? Do you tell it it has no future? Do you tell it it's losing its mind? Do you tell it its brain clearly doesn't work properly and it will never find a husband? No, you don't say that to a child. What do we do if a child seems like they're computing things a little bit slow? What should we do? We got to be patient. Isn't that best? Just imagine it. Imagine I have a little child here that I'm helping out. You don't want to see me getting down on the child. Come on. You should know this. Why are you looking over there? Why are you thinking of that? Right? You don't want to see that. You would want to see me say, okay, hey, you with me, buddy? All right, here we go. Let's just try it again. That's okay. Let's just try it again. 2 plus 3 plus A. Okay, let's slow it down. That's fine. That's fine. Let's just slow it down. So we got this plus this, right? You'd want to see me be patient no matter how long it takes. You would rather see me take a long 15 minutes explaining something patiently with the child than to see me spend 5 minutes losing my patience and yelling, right? Compounding the trauma. They don't need that. It's not helpful. So this child is you. Bring that child inside yourself. That's your inner child. Talk to it like a calm, cool parent. Here's what we say to ourselves. Uh-oh. Looks like I wasn't paying attention. Oh, my mind feels a little bit cloudy. Maybe I feel stressed right now. Let me take a second and meditate. Pause. Figure out why I feel stressed. What could it be? Let me give myself some suggestions and see if myself responds to it. Am I stressed maybe because I have a wedding coming up? Hmm, maybe, yeah. Am I stressed because I have these college term papers due? Oh, yeah, I'm really stressed about that. Okay. Why does that stress me out so much? Well, because if I don't get these college papers done, then I'm going to be doomed. I'm not going to be able to get a good job, and I'm not going to be able to find a mate, and I'm going to be doomed for the rest of my life. I'm going to live in squalor. I'll be homeless. And then you stop and go, okay, that seems a little bit extreme. Could it be that I have a little cognitive distortion here, which is extreme thinking? Oh, yeah, I guess that is a little extreme. Okay, let me think. How would I coach a kid through extreme thoughts like that? To say, okay, let's soften this language instead of we're going to be homeless, it's going to be the worst, we're never going to have anything. We can't predict the future, right? This is important to us to get this paper done, but it's not life or death. It's not life or death. It's not the most important thing. I don't hinge my entire identity on whether or not I get this paper done on time or how well I do on the paper. I don't hinge my entire identity on whether or not I finish school, type of career I get. I don't hinge my identity on that. It's something I would like, and I'm working towards it as a goal. But I enjoy this. This is something I'm interested in, and I've chosen this. So I want to enjoy myself through this. Okay, how about I grab some water? I come back here, and let me find a way to make this into a game so that it's a little bit more fun and interesting, and I'm not dissociating so much. You go, get your water. Okay, do some jumping jacks, whatever. You come back after some stretching, you sit down at your computer, and you make it into a game. Okay, let's see. I got my kitchen timer here. How about I have to be able to explain without looking at my paper the first two paragraphs. I have to be able to do that in the next 5 minutes. Set your kitchen timer and go. Do. Okay, now I have a game. I have to be able to make a presentation out of this in the next 5 minutes. What did we do there? I'm gonna bring the child back out of myself. This is the way you deal with it with a kid. That's how we're supposed to deal with ourselves. Even if we're grown, even if we're 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, we still need to do that. Even at 80, even at 90, still got to do that. Calm, patient speech to the self. Because otherwise we're going to exacerbate the problem with more abuse and trauma. We don't want to do that. Calm, patient speech to yourself. Okay, it's all right. Okay, I just noticed I haven't been present here. I've been staring at this paper for like 25 minutes, and the words are not absorbing into the brain. I see the words, but they're not absorbing into the brain. Let me see what's going on here. What am I feeling? What am I feeling? There's got to be some kind of stress. I'm overwhelmed. What am I distracted by? I feel depressed. Why do I feel depressed? Because I feel like there's no way I'm going to be able to blank and blank. Okay, what is that? Is that extreme thinking? Yeah, no way? No, that's not true. Is there a way? Yeah, there is a way. Rule number four, I must focus on the most beneficial possibility in the future. That means of everything that could happen, I must focus on the most beneficial possibility. Boy, I'm glad I've been going to those meetings that Roman's been hosting regularly so that I know the laws of healing and happiness so I can apply them at this time. Oh, that's how we're supposed to speak to ourselves, just like that. Okay? Remember what happened to my car when I didn't follow the manufacturer's warning? Do you remember that on Monday? Yeah, my engine seized up because I never put gas in it. Because the engine needs to be treated a certain way. Your subconscious is your inner child. It needs to be treated a certain way. Your body has to be treated a certain way. So we don't yell. We don't get more stressed about the stress. That's not helpful. Oh no, I'm never going to work. No, no, no. We become a parent and we manage. We become the executive, like a CEO, and we organize. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this over here. We're going to organize this. It's fun to organize, right? We like doing that. Creating little charts and boxes and folders and portfolios. It's time to do a little organization. When you feel that brain fog come on, it's time for you to step up and be the CEO. The reason you are experiencing the brain fog, this is very important. The reason you are experiencing the brain fog to the degree that you are is not because your brain is broken. It's because you, as the conscious person, are not stepping up to be the boss, to be the authority, to be the. That's why the brain fog is taking you away. You're like a man with a sailboat that doesn't turn the sails, doesn't turn the rudder, doesn't steer the ship. He just floats off wherever the wind blows him. That's what you're doing with your feelings. You're just letting your feelings take you wherever they take you. So if I'm in anxiety, I just live in the anxiety. If I'm in depression, I just live in the depression. You have to step up, you, the conscious being, cerebral cortex, and say, hello, the boss has arrived. The queen is here. The king is here. Let's organize things. What's going on? Okay, no problem. We need to make a little game. Friends, part of the reason why you have trouble is not because your brain is broken. It's because the stuff you're doing is kind of boring. Let's just tell the truth. Let's just tell the truth. You're sitting there, I'm broken, I'm the worst. The stuff you're doing is boring. You're studying to be an astrophysicist or something. Like it's tough stuff. Hard on purpose. They make it challenging. And that's what you've decided to take on. And now you're sitting here in school. You didn't even like school to begin with, and now you electively took on more school, which that was your decision. I don't know what to tell you about that. So, hey, this is the way it works. You've made the decision. Understand that part of the reason is because you're doing tasks that are not fun and interesting. Notice that you're not as bogged up when you're doing your favorite video game, researching things that are interesting to you, scrolling through TikTok if it's interesting to you, watching a movie that's interesting to you, playing a sport that's interesting to you. When it's something interesting, you're not as dissociated. When you're not stressed, you're not as dissociated. So please, you're not broken. You're riding along like a passenger. That's the problem. Become less passive. You're not in the passenger seat. You're in the driver's seat. Grab that wheel and take control. And everyone understand what you're supposed to do? We're going to talk to ourselves. Even if you got to do it out loud, that's fine. You can do it in your brain, but doing it out loud is fine. What I love even more is do it on paper. Take a pen, put down the voice of the child on a piece of paper. What is the inner child saying? What are my feelings saying? Write it down, and then give the voice of the parent. Write it down. Eliminate your stress, eliminate your anxiety, or greatly diminish it. It controls it, it manages it. Now you're able to move forward. Structure things into a game, make them interesting. You're not broken. You're just not stepping up. And I understand why, because the force of the feelings is very powerful. And you've learned maybe to be guided and rely on the instincts and the feelings and the intuition to get through your trauma, to survive up until this point. So your feelings, the body, the intuition, the brain, give them a hand. They did a good job. Now you're going to take over. Now it's time for you to take over. The wisest part of yourself. I trust you. I trust you to be in charge. Do you trust you? Let's make the choice to trust ourselves, to take control, to help ourselves, to come out of the fog and into the light.